Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. And man, it feels so bad to lose. It does. And it's not that we lost. I expected to lose, right? I'm not going to have this pity party today. And, I'm not ready to, discontinue the football program and bulldoze the stadium and all that kind of stuff. There's sometimes we're prisoners of the moment. I think it's important to kind of understand there's a process here. But I tell you what irritates me, and this really predates Zach Arnett. Even when Dan Mullen was here, as great as the years were, we were really never competitive against Alabama, with the exception of maybe 2014, a game we should have won. We were number one in the country. Alabama made history that day, one of the few times in school history they defeated a number one team. And then 2017, we should have won both of those games. But by and large, we just haven't been competitive against Alabama. And that's the measuring stick in this conference. And again, people look up and say, Ole Miss beat Alabama a couple times. They did. They also got absolutely trounced in most of those games. And I understand, you look up and, hey, a big win for those guys over LSU, and they're certainly playing better football than we are right now. How could you argue against that, right? But it just irritates me to you look up and you say, you know what? It's a sure loss every year when Alabama's on the schedule. They won't be on the schedule next year, but it's just very, very frustrating to think this is where we are as a program, that we go into these games expecting to lose. And listen, there was a time there in the second quarter I thought, we may make this thing interesting, and we did. But it didn't last. We mismanaged the end of the second quarter, and essentially the game was decided at halftime. So we're going to break the game down. We're going to work through all that today. And we're going to look forward to kind of, what's next the rest of the way. And, I've got the new mic hooked up, too. So your sound quality may be a little bit better. It may be a little bit modulated. I've tried to turn the track volume down. I'm not speaking quite as loud as I normally do. But, we'll figure it out, But, man, it sucks, man. It sucks to lose. And it sucks to go into ball games expecting to lose. I'm not that kind of person. I don't know about you, but I always feel like that any challenge that I encounter in life, that I got a chance to win. And the reality of it is sometimes no matter how bad you want it, you're just not good enough to win. That was the case on Saturday night. But we did some things that don't make a lot of sense. And I really thought that Kevin Barbay actually called a pretty good ball game. We didn't execute, and part of that's because of the fact that they have more talented players than us. But, I just get so tired of this, man, just going into some ball games like this. And I told my wife as we're walking to the stadium, man, it would mean so much to win this ball game. It would mean everything to this program, to this fan base, to win this ball game. It would really send a signal we're headed in the right direction. Wasn't expecting to. But it's like those days you wake up and we look so forward to college football. And, you wake up on those days and you think, we're going to lose. We're going to lose. And tip of the cap to the Bulldog fans, it turned out. It created the best atmosphere of the year, one of the better atmospheres we've had in a couple years. It's just an amazing atmosphere. It really was. And thanks to all of you that came and did your part. You were to be commended. And that's another thing that I spoke about in the post-game wrap-up is that, nobody, I read all this stuff and people are like, we have the worst fans in America. Well, number one, it's not true. But number two, there's really no evidence to support that. You go back and look at this baseball season, we had some top 10 crowds when we weren't playing well. And then, we have a ball game this past Saturday that we all expect to lose. And we have a near capacity crowd. So it's not our fan support that's at issue here. Really in anything. Do I want more of you guys to come to basketball games? Yeah, sure. But our fans are to be commended for the way they have supported Mississippi State this year in every aspect. Whether it be jumping aboard NIL, and we always need more of that, be part of the Bulldog Initiative, or buying season tickets. We have a tremendous amount of season ticket sales this year in football. So I'm not going to listen to any talk from anybody about our fans. Because, listen, when you make the emotional and financial investment that many of our people make, they've got a right to be upset. And that's okay. We all want the same things, and that's Mississippi State to win. And I get tired of the poor old Mississippi State mentality that some people have too. And I had a discussion just yesterday, talking about some other things, and I was like, we ought to do this and we ought to do that. And this person kept bringing up kind of roadblocks and say, no, well, there's this and there's this. And I was like, we've got to change our mindset to a can-do situation. It's not, well, we can't do this because of this. Find a way. Figure it out. And that's what I think has to happen. And I think there is a new generation of Bulldog fans that expect more. And I think it's okay to expect more. And I think it's okay to voice your displeasure when you don't get more. And I'm going to do some of that today. Again, I'm not going to have some pity party. I'm not going to throw everybody under the bus, but I'm going to speak very honest and frankly about this. And it's not the loss that bothers me. Again, because I expected to lose. It's the fact that we just are not competitive against the top teams in this conference. We're not. Now you could say, well, Steve, historically, I get it. I get it. But just because that's the way it's always been isn't the way it should always be. We're asking more and more of our fans than we ever have in the history of college athletics. And they need to get some return on that investment. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. I love Bulldog Burger Company. I have loved them long before they loved me. But, man, what a great partnership it has been. I enjoy going in there eating, man, just putting my feet under that table. There is an expectation of excellence when I go in there. I know exactly the quality of service, the quality of cuisine that I'm going to enjoy there. It makes it easy to think about my dining decisions when Bulldog Burger Company is an option for me. And when I'm out of town, I miss it. I do. So next time you're in town, go by and check them out. There's 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. You'll be glad you did. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. It's true. It's in writing. You can trust the science, as they say. And get that chocolate shake to go. Perhaps that bread pudding. Get it. You know how it is. You get a big meal and you think, I'd love some dessert, but maybe I want it later. Put it in the fridge, man. And so when you get the munchies a little bit later, you've got something of quality to enjoy. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, let's go through this ball game. It won't be fun, but there will be some insight, I guess, maybe perhaps that you don't have now. One of the things I want to jump on to here before we get too deep in the weeds, I've read and seen a lot of this. People are like, oh, well, Zach Arnett doesn't show enough emotion on the sidelines. And I don't know what they're showing on TV because I don't go back. I'm turning this down just a little bit. I don't go back and watch our losses until much later. Maybe I'm a little soft like that. But anyway, I don't know what the TV cameras show. But I can tell you Zach Arnett was very demonstrative and emotional on the sidelines with coaches, players, and officials. It's true. And it's like I said, there were at least 10 times that I saw him on the field. And somebody said, well, it should have been more. I mean, that's the thing. You can never be negative enough or direct enough. I mean, you never can be. But I want to make sure we get that established. Again, I don't know what they showed on TV, but for people to suggest that Arnett was unemotional throughout the ballgame is not an accurate portrayal of actual events. All right, let's get to it. State wins a toss, and that's kind of a rarity for us. Alabama elects to receive, so we elect to defend the south end zone. Nick Barmera gets a kickoff. The first kickoff in a Bulldog uniform for him, it wasn't a touchback. And Kendrick Law returns it 30 yards out to the Alabama 30. Bulldog defense showed some grit early in this ball game, and of course, DeMonte Russell unavailable, Calvin Dinkins unavailable, Trevion Williams unavailable. I think we'll get DeMonte Russell back this week. I think he could play this week. Maybe he won't. Hopefully we won't need him, but hopefully we get everybody back here in a couple weeks. But it's going to be one of those deals that's going to depend on how quickly people respond to treatment. So you kind of know before we get this game started, as I tweeted out, you're short some defensive linemen. And so State had to get creative. There were times we had 2 defensive linemen down. We had 1 at times. We had linebackers up in kind of a prowler package. I mean, we had some young guys that got a lot of snaps that actually played pretty well. But you're facing an Alabama running game that has been somewhat inconsistent, but they still have talent. and eventually they got the ground game going. But this first drive here, we did a great job. We give up 12 on the very first play, and then Jalen Milroe is sacked by Jett Johnson. It was an emotional play, really got the crowd fired up. 2nd and 16, they run McClellan left for a short game, brings up 3rd and 12, and then Dontae Russell, the younger brother of DeMonte, what a great job he does, frees himself with a spin move and gets to Milroe, and it's a sack. So 2 sacks on the opening drive, and you think, wasn't expecting this. And then James Burnip, we knew he was a weapon for Alabama, has the ball check up at the 1-yard line, so you feel like State is really in a bad spot. We do take a shot here on very 1st and 10, and it was a back shoulder throw to Xavier Thomas and an obvious pass interference, and they don't call it. You know, such is life against Alabama. Not to say it would have changed the outcome of the game, but the crowd was right to boo. It was a bad non-call, but from the officials. Rogers then runs the sneak for 1 yard, gives us a little operating room, and we swing it out to Tulu. He can't get loose there, makes it 4th and 6. And again, another chance for us to make an impact play here. Keelan Crimmon's a 42-yard punt, and Kool-Aid McKinstry foolishly elects to try to return this. And State is all over it. Deshaun Page knocks it loose, and McKinstry gets back on it. What a play that could have been, right? It's a chance for us with the ball on the ground, but it certainly felt like the Bulldogs were there to play. That continued in this next possession for Alabama that started at their 49-yard line. They run McClellan up the middle for 4. Then there's a false start. So now they're 2nd 11 behind the chains. Roy Dale Williams, who's a really good back for them, runs at the middle for 7, brings up a 3rd and 4. And they snap the ball before Milroe is ready, and the ball is on the turf. We don't get it. So it's 2 opportunities, in a matter of about a half dozen plays that Alabama puts the ball on the field. We're unable to get it. And that's not anybody's fault, but again, it's a chance for us to do something. It does force a punt. Fortunately, this ball gets into the end zone. It nearly checked up at the 1 again. But State gets spotted at the 20. And we swing it out to Woody for 7. Come back to Tulu for 2. Brings up a 3rd and 5. How did that happen? Oh, yeah, we had a 2-yard loss. Excuse me. 3rd and 5. And then Rogers is sacked. And then we punt. But you felt like, okay, the defense is here to play. 1st and 10 at their 30, and really nice effort here from Keelan Crimmon's 54-yard punt. They run McClellan up the middle for 3. They go back to the middle for 14. Again, we don't have anybody in the middle there. We just don't. We're Pickering and Kermit doing the best they can, just with no substitutions, really. 1st and 10, it's a fumbled snap. It's a low snap, and Milroe just picks it up and takes off. And the athleticism takes over, and we can't catch him. 53 yards, touchdown. Extra point's good, 7-0. And it's unfortunate. It's a busted play, right? Not that they hadn't had some success on this drive running the football, but it's a busted play that yields the first touchdown for Alabama. There would be others. All right, we get the ball back now after the touchback at our 25, and we run Woody off the left for 4. We're incomplete to Mosley. Latham in Will's face a little bit here. Ball's incomplete. 3rd and 6. We set up a screen here, and Will threw 3 interceptions. I don't really fault him for this one. It's just a guy making a play, right? I mean, we set up the screen. They recognize it. The guy gets a hand up. It's batted up. Chris Braswell grabs it and runs it in for a touchdown. It's 14-0. And at this point, it really felt like the game was getting away from us. I think we all felt it. Extra point's good. Touchback on the kickoff. State takes over to 25 with 3:51 to go in the first quarter. Marks runs off left side for 1-yard loss. We go back to Marks for none. Brings up a 3rd and 11, and we think, okay, it's going to be a 3 and out. But it wasn't. Will Rogers drops back to pass and just takes off and gets a first down. And that's an element of his game that we never really see. But 12 yards for the first down, moves the chains. 1st and 10, we run Jeffrey Pittman off the right side. Need to see more of him, right? If nothing else, not only because of the fact he's productive, but it's to kind of save some wear and tear on Woody. 2nd and 7, we find Freddie Roberson, a very rare Freddie Roberson reception. He's got 3 on the year. This one's for 13 yards and a first down. Out near midfield, 1st and 10 now at the Alabama 48. We run Woody off right side for 5, go back to the left for 4. That runs out the quarter. We'd stayed on the move, down 14-0, but you start thinking, if we can get a score here, maybe we can climb back into this thing. Well, this does end in points as we open up the second quarter, but maybe not as many as we'd like. On the 3rd and 1 play, it's a false start on Cam Jones. Cam not having a big year. Needed him to have a big year. So far, he's not really having one. We need him to really step up here down the stretch. All right, 3rd and 6, though, we still managed to get it done. Woody Marks gets loose for 29 yards down to Alabama 15. Crowd's kind of creeping back into the ballgame a little bit here. Marks goes for 4. And we bring in Mike Wright on 2nd and 6. And Mike runs up the middle and gets it inside the 10. But it's 3rd and 4. And then Rogers is sacked for a loss of 4. We end up taking the field goal. It's good. Kyle Ferry having a big year for Mississippi State. I wish he was kicking more extra points and field goals, to be honest, though. Then Nick Barmera, 60-yard kickoff, and it's returned 19 yards to Alabama 24. I don't know if it was strategic or what, but Barmera done a really good job getting touchbacks. But this game, just 1 of 5. All right, 14-3 game now. And Alabama gets back on the board here with the field goal. But, again, this a little more of a sustained drive. You get beat by the big play on the errant snap that he scoops up and runs for a score, and then you get beat on the pick 6. This is the first time they really, put a drive together, and it ended with points. Roydell Williams up the middle again for 11. Then it's complete to Malik Benson for 27. Roydell Williams goes off right side for 8, back at the middle for 1. And then it's a 1-yard loss on 3rd and 1. Nice play here by Buki Watson and Sean Preston. Makes it a 4th and 2 play, and they kick the 48-yard field goal, and they're back in it, right? I mean, it's like you look at it, we narrowed the gap a little bit. They take it right back out to 14 points. Will Reichert's kickoff down to the MSU 2, and Tulu gets loose. Too loose for 34 yards to the State 36. And we've had some big returns this year that we've done nothing with. This one, we actually cash it in. So back-to-back scoring drives for the Bulldogs. How it all happened is we're incomplete to Creed Whittemore. We go back to Tulu, running right, and every time we run this reverse action, we haven't been able to break this. And I don't know if we're tipping it, in film study or whatever, but whatever we're doing, every time that we've run Tulu on this little reverse action stuff, we're just kind of putting him in a bad situation. All right, 3rd and 8, we're complete to Jeffrey Pittman. Need to see more of him. 22 yards to the Alabama 40. 1st and 10 now. We run Pittman off the right side for a couple. 2nd and 8 come back. It's incomplete to Woody. Latham had a big game for Alabama back in our backfield there. 3rd and 8, Woody gets loose off the right side for 10 and a first down. It's 1st and 10 at the Alabama 28. We take a shot with Xavier, just couldn't quite get there. And 2nd and 10, we get it out to Antonio Harmon for 13, who gets it into the red zone there. Sets up a really nice play here. Mike Wright into the ball game. Runs the zone read, keeps it, and goes essentially untouched into the end zone for the touchdown. And Davis Wade Stadium is electric at this point. Extra point is good. It is now 17-10. And again, back-to-back scoring drives for your Bulldogs. You think, man, if we can get a stop here, we got a chance to go 2 for 1. Because we get the ball coming out of the half. And so how we manage this final 6 minutes really determined the outcome of this ball game. And we did not do a good job here on the field of executing. 1st and 10 after the touchback. I believe that was the long touchback we had on the game. Joe Milrow runs right for 6. He's flushed there. DeCam makes a tackle. Milrow again, 1-yard gain. Brings up a 3rd and 3. We call timeout. I thought it was a great timeout. I was like, hey, I think Zach and the staff understands how significant this drive is. Let's settle the defense down. Let's get off the field. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that. We almost did, though. 3rd and 3. They swing it out to Ja'Cory Brooks, and Banks is all over it. And it was right at the line of the game. Proves to be a first down. It was the right call. Brings up another set of downs. 1st and 10 here. Milrow runs off right for 6. They go to McClellan for 3. Again, 3rd and 1. And this time Alabama calls timeout. And out of the timeout, they give you a false start. So instead of it being a 3rd and short situation, it's 3rd and medium. 3rd and 6. Again, a very important play in this ball game. If we can make a play and get off the field, you got a chance to go get even just a field goal. Helps tremendously. But instead, it's complete to Amari Nablack for 18 yards across midfield to the State 43. McClellan then runs for 11, back to him again up the middle for 8. That's 19 yards right at the middle of your defense after 2 significant 3rd down conversions for Alabama here. 2nd and 2, Milrow is incomplete to Robbie Outs for 7, but There's an ineligible downfield. All right, puts it back at 2nd and 7. You start thinking, okay, look, if we can get a win here on 2nd down, force on the big 3rd down, get the crowd into it, maybe we get off the field. But instead, it's complete to McClellan for 19. McClellan then on 1st and 10 from the state 10 gets nothing. We call timeout again to kind of settle the defense, trying to force a field goal here. McClellan runs up the middle, really kind of faded left there for 8. We call timeout again, trying to salvage some clock and say, you know what, again, even if we give up a score here, maybe we can go get something. On 3rd and 2, McClellan back up the middle for a touchdown. Extra point is good. They kick it off away from Tulu, but Thomas gets it out to the state 27. So you got a minute and 3 to work with here. You're down 24-10, and again, if you get anything here, it's big. Now, in postgame, Arnett kind of second-guessed himself and said we should have taken a knee. I absolutely disagree. Absolutely disagree. You got timeouts to work with, and, again, you've had back-to-back scoring drives. So it's not like you haven't found some sense of rhythm on offense. So to me, that I disagree with Zach, and I think maybe he said that to kind of protect the team, the coaches, the players, whatever. I just don't agree with it. I think you've got to go try to get points, and yes, it's a minute, but and maybe you take a play on 1st down, and maybe if you can get a chunk play and get a 1st down, 10, 15, 20 yards, then you kind of go tempo and see what you can get. If it's incomplete on 1st down, then maybe you just run the dive and get on out of there. But I think you have to be aggressive here, and especially against Alabama. You're not going to beat Alabama being conservatively. Instead, we throw a pick. And Rogers said he just really thought that they were going to wrap around linebacker there, and don't know where the miscommunication was. I just know there was an interception thrown. And this was basically the death knell for this ball game. This was it right here. It wasn't the fact that we didn't score. It's the fact that they did. They get the ball back under a minute to go on our 31. Williams runs at the middle for 4. They call their final timeout. 2nd and 6. It's complete to Isaiah Bond for 17. Sets up a 1st and goal situation, and Milroe runs up the middle for a touchdown. The game is over at this point. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be. 1st and 10. After the 20-yard return, we take a knee. And that runs out the half. It's 31-10. And again, just a few minutes before, State's down a touchdown with a chance to get off the field. I mean, that's how quickly things can change. And a lot of it's our own ineptitude. But again, give credit to Alabama, right? I mean, they're very opportunistic. We made a mistake. They made us pay for it. But this game was over at the halftime intermission. All right, get to the second half. Of course, Bulldogs get the ball coming out of the break. We get the touchback here, and what a weapon that is, man. It is. It absolutely is. And I'm glad that Nick Barmera is back. We get more of that. But, again, not as consistent this week as he has been in the 2 previous weeks. But Tulu runs right for a 1-yard loss. We go back to Woody for 13 off the left side. 1st down, 1st and 10. We're complete to Tulu for 15. A great throw and catch here. 1st and 10. Pittman runs off right side for 10. We go back to him for a 1-yard loss, but we're at the Alabama 39. It's already been a decent drive. And 2nd and 11, Will Rogers showing off some wheels here. Again, I wasn't expecting this from him. He drops back, and again, it shows that he does understand the offense and where the green grass is going to be. He sees some pressure and then takes off and runs 15 yards, one of the longest runs of Will's career. Runs 15 yards and gets out of bounds, moves the chains, 1st down. 1st and 10 at their 24. We bring in Mike Wright. He runs off left side for a gain of 2. Brings up 2nd and 8. And Jeffrey Pittman, again, need to see more of him. Really, really impassioned, physical run right here. He gets off right side, and you can see once he breaks containment, he just simply has another gear. Down inside the Alabama 5, and on 1st and 4, we run Pittman back up the middle for 1, back to him in the middle for 2. He kind of a short yardage back. And on 3rd and 1, we go back to Pittman again. So it's a Jeffrey Pittman show. Wasn't a perfect throw. Great adjustment by Pittman to get it and get into the end zone. They review the play, which is a waste of all of our precious lives. The extra point was good. Now it's 31-17. You start thinking we just need something good to happen here. Just get us a stop. Give us a chance. There's still a lot of ball game left. And I know I've just declared the game over at halftime because I've got the gift of hindsight. But in the moment here, you're thinking, okay, it's 31-17. If we get a stop and can get into the end zone, maybe get this thing to the fourth quarter within a score, maybe the great folks of Davis Wade Stadium can kind of take over and will us to a victory here. But instead, Alabama does what good teams do. They answer. They didn't answer with the same vigor that we did, but they allowed themselves the benefit of having a 3-score lead after this possession. McClellan runs up the middle for a gain, 1-yard gain. It's complete to Black again for 23. Now it's 1st and 10 out in their midfield. McClellan runs off the left side, 5-yard loss, big play here by Jett Johnson and Sean Preston. 2nd and 15, and again a chance behind the chains here. They run McClellan for 4. It's 3rd and 11. Again, let's just get a stop. Can we get off the field here? No, we can't. And they get it out to Black, a little bit run after the catch there. Makes it a 1st and 10 at the MSU 31. They swing it out to Kendrick Law for 5, makes a manageable 2nd and 5. Williams 4 on the play, makes it a 3rd and 1. And then Milroe runs up the middle and gets a 1st down. Nice effort by the Bulldogs here, but we couldn't stop them. 1st and 10 now in the red zone. Williams runs for 6 to the middle. No gain here, brings up a 3rd and 4, and you're hoping to hold for a field goal. Well, we do because of the fact that Deshaun Page and Jaden Crumity get to the quarterback here. So it's another sack for the Bulldogs. 4th and 10, the field goal's up and good. But again, now it's a 3-score game again. So even though that you have cut this thing and really responded, with a nice scoring drive to open the half, you're down 17. And then we go 3 and out, right? 1st and 10, Davis runs off the right side for 2. Davis then off the right side again for 4. Brings up a 3rd and 4. We're incomplete to Xavier Thomas. We punt it away. And you would think Alabama's going to go ahead and put a fork in us. The game is, again, it's done. But, give your Bulldog defense a little credit here. And situationally here, right? Alabama drive starts at their 20. McClellan runs for 5. McClellan goes back for 3 more up the middle. Brings up a 3rd and 2, and it's incomplete. And Jett Johnson in the face of Jalen Milroe, and they force a punt here. State takes over at our 28. Final play of the third quarter, Seth Davis runs off the right for 3. And again, Woody had come out of the ball game, was a little bit banged up. It was smart not to go back with him. It just was. This game is decided. There's no point and getting him banged up even more than he was. All right, so 2nd and 7 now. Will Rogers complete to Tulu for 12. Still fighting. 1st and 10 now at our 43. We get it out to Tulu here, and they blow it up for a 1-yard loss. Xavier Thomas ends up with the football. Short gain there. Kind of, just one of those things. You try to make a play here. Didn't work the way we had hoped. 2nd and 11. Will Rogers complete to Antonio Harmon for 1. 3rd and 10, Will Rogers is sacked. We go for it, and I read some social media commentary, and I want to respond to that. People are like, why would we go for it on 4th down from our 42? Guys, we're in the 4th quarter down 3 scores. It doesn't matter how much you lose by. It doesn't. So if we punt here, does it make it easier to accept? No, you got to go for it. This is a no-brainer. You're down 17 in the 4th quarter, and you're across your 40. It just simply doesn't matter. You got to go. You got to try to win the game. Will sack for 8 yards. So there's a lot to be upset about in this ball game. This call isn't one of them. All right, 1st and 10 now. Alabama takes over to our 34. Complete across the middle for 4 yards to the Black, and then Milroe sacked again. 3-yard loss. Buki Watson, Dante Russell needs to play more. 2nd and 23. It's complete to Dippery for 26. Moves to change, and those are things that just simply can't happen. You get them backed up in a 2nd and 23, and you let this guy run for a 1st down. That just absolutely cannot happen. It wasn't like it was some unique play design. They just throw it out there. We don't make a tackle and give up 26 yards. And forget that the score is. It's a pride thing. 2nd and 23, and you go 26. No, it'd be one thing if it was like they just threw a fade and it's a one-on-one matchup and they beat you down the field. They threw this ball underneath. They're just trying to get some of it back, and they get it all back. That's just unacceptable. All right, 1st and 10, it's incomplete. And 2nd and 10, they give it to Roydell Williams, a 4 up the middle. Then it's a false start. And of course, it's permissible to flag Alabama at this point, right? They've had some penalties. Let's be fair about it. More times than not, they don't get called. But 3rd and 6 becomes 3rd and 11. And then it's complete to McClellan for 6. We make a tackle there. They kick the field goal. It's 37-17. Still a 3-score game. But only if we hadn't gone for it on 4th and 8, right? No, come on. Get over yourself. All right, Will Riker kicks off. Tulu returns it 3 yards out to the MSU 18. And I think you're going to see more people doing that, kind of sky kicking it. When they can't get it out of the end zone, they're going to try to sky kick it. Offensively, this fourth quarter wasn't our best. We take over to our 18. Rogers complete to Xavier Thomas for 2. We go back to Davis for 4. Brings up a 3rd and 4, and we're incomplete to Freddie Roberson. And just really didn't protect well here. And on 4th and 4, we go for it again. And again, people were upset. Why are we going for it? Guys, it is a 3-score game in the fourth quarter. We're down 37-17. You don't get any style points. Nobody's going to come back later and say, well, Mississippi State, they punted. It's stupid. And then the pass is intercepted by Caleb Downs. We're trying to get it out there to Creed Whittemore, who was had a clean release there, but I don't think Will ever looked off the safety. I think Will had kind of predetermined where he was going with the football. Caleb Downs makes a nice play on the ball. And, again, this is the 3rd interception. The first one I don't really, fault Will for. The last 2 I do. So here we go. Again, it's a scoring drive for Alabama. Only if we hadn't gone for it on 4th down. Oh, my gosh. All right, 1st and 10 at our 34. Miller runs for no gain. Ty Simpson into the ball game now. Runs for a loss of 1. Then Ty is incomplete. And then they get us to jump. They're going to go for it on 4th down. They get us to jump. Dante Russell, young guy, makes it 4th and 6. They attempt a 48-yard field goal, and it's good. It's now 40-17. Kickoff is 58 yards, and Xavier returns to 35 yards to the State 42. Seth Davis runs off right side for 11, and then Rogers complete to Antonio Harmon for 7. Brings up a 2nd and 3 here. Kevon Lee, rare carry for him. Gets in and gets you 7, moves the chains, makes it a 1st and 10. We take a shot with Freddie Roberson. It falls incomplete. 2nd and 10. Kevon Lee, again, 9 yards up the middle. They flag us for illegal formation, which makes it a 2nd and 15. We find Freddie Roberson for 10. Makes it a 3rd and 5. Kevon runs right for no gain. 4th and 5. We go for it again. And it's incomplete. And Kool-Aid McKinstry in there. Hadn't been in the ballgame. They put him back in the ballgame. Because they had a lot of reserves in the ballgame then. But they weren't going to let us go down and score again. Alabama then takes a knee, runs the clock out. That's a ball game. I say they take a knee. Just kind of run the football back up, just run the dive here. Justice Haynes goes for 3. They go back to him for 15, then for 2 and for 2. So that's it. 40-17 is your final. And it still stinks, right? It's like it's like, well, it's Alabama. I know we're never going to be Alabama, but I want to be competitive with Alabama. Look at your team numbers here. I guess we'll look at some individual numbers. Jalen Milroe, 10 for 12. And if memory serves me correct now, that's 7 incompletions in the past 3 weeks for Mississippi State. Pretty crazy. How does that happen? How does that happen? I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like it. We simply cannot defend the pass. You're like, well, no. It makes no sense whatsoever for teams to be able to complete the pass with the proficiency in which they do against us. As I mentioned last week, the 2 incompletions that Rattler had, one should have been a hold on us, and the other one was a drop. How are people this wide open this often, no matter who we play? It doesn't make any sense to me. This bothers me more than the offense, because we felt like there would be some growing pains with the offense. You've got a brand new coordinator and with a bunch of guys he didn't recruit, right? But defensively, you've got a bunch of guys back. And yes, I understand there was some needs in the secondary. We've talked about that for months now. But you're kidding me here? How does this happen? Milroe's 10 of 12, 164 yards. He sacked 4 times. If I told you before the ball game, hey, we're going to sack him 4 times, you'd say, maybe we're in this thing. Riders also sacked 4 times, but 15 of 27 for 107 yards, 1 TD, 3 interceptions. That is not going to get it done. That is absolutely not going to get it done. I don't know how anybody can look at that and say anything otherwise. And listen, I'm very much a Will Rogers supporter, but we got to shake some things up here. And again, I still question how we're using Mike Wright. Mike Wright can throw the football. Can Mike throw it as well as Will? No, he can't. But you're not making defenses defend you honestly when all you ever do with Mike is have him run the football. And not to mention, we bring him in, let him start a drive just to hand it off. You can pull a kid out of the stands and do that. And I'm in favor of giving Mike a series. Let's see how things go. And again, I think it's about making the defense be honest. This is the thing that kind of, perplexes me. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But, not a good game for Will. Not that I expected him to have a great game against Alabama. I thought the kid fought and played hard. But, the stat line is what it is. Jalen Milroe is the leading rusher for Alabama with 69 yards, despite the fact that he lost 23. I mean, he nearly ran for 100 before you factor in the losses. Jaquavius Marks leads Bulldogs with 68 yards. Freddie Roberson, your leading receiver, actually tied with Jeffrey Pittman with two catches for 23 yards. Tulu, five touches for 21 in the passing game. Defensively, some big numbers, for a lot of people here. Looking at Mississippi State's, we're on the field a lot. So Jet Johnson with 14 tackles, Nathaniel Watson with a dozen, Jet, 1.5 tackles for loss, and one of those being a sack. Deshaun Page with a forced fumble, had 7 tackles, one of his better games in the uniform. Sean Preston with 7 tackles. Don Terry Russell with 5, 2.5 of those for a loss. Jaden Crumity went down in the ball game. We don't expect that to be long-lasting. He did leave the field on his own power. We'll try to get an update today, but I don't know if we will. But, I thought at times the defense, fought valiantly. And, again, you keep giving those guys a short end of the field. You're asking an awful lot of the defense. And then you look at the fact that you really only have 2 down defensive linemen available. They're going to run the football. And they do. And they did. And those are things you look at. It's just like, you're not going to learn anything about your team against Alabama unless it's negative, short of winning the football game. But that game's over. And now we get ready for another day. And we'll take on Western Michigan this Saturday. Kickoff is at 11. And I know that makes it tough, right? You'd love to play that game at night to really help, because people aren't going to come. There are going to be some people that say, I'm not going up there. The sting of these last couple losses, State's lost 3 in a row. And then you got 11 a.m. game against, a team that you should beat handily. But it's one of those situations, too, and I hate to sound so negative. If you want to see the Bulldogs win this year, this may be one you want to come to. We got an open date after this, and we need to make good use of these 2 weeks. We need to get some guys some playing time. We need to get some guys healthy and prepare for the end of October. I mean, listen, the month of October has got to be great for Mississippi State. Can it be? Absolutely. But it's all about us. We have got to execute at a higher level. And I think the open date comes at a good time, but we got to go take care of business this weekend. And people are like, Steve, I can't assume anything. And I think you're right to feel that way. But this football team from Western Michigan, I mean, listen, they're 2-3 on the year. We'll preview them later in the week, but they have not been good against Power 5 competition. They did beat Ball State over the weekend, 42-24. But outside of that, it's been an interesting year, 2-3. And, of course, they opened up with a win over St. Francis. Francis. But against Power 5 competition, it had been very good. So, we'll see those guys next Saturday. Need you here. We really do. So if you're in town, please come to the ball game. If you're on the fence about coming, please come to the ball game. I'm sure there'll be plenty of tickets available. You can probably get some for free if you look around, Gene's page or some of the free Facebook pages out there. But we need you to be here. And a chance for State to even the record. I think most people expected us to be at best 4-2 after October 7th. After this game against Western Michigan, we were hopeful to win South Carolina. I think most of us penciled in losses to LSU and Alabama. But you can't just say, okay, well, I expected to lose, and so everything is okay. Everything is not okay. But also, everything is not absolutely rotten either. If you win this ball game this weekend and get healthy after that open date, you got a chance to win a couple meaningful ball games in October, and then we'll see how November goes. But there are a lot of people out there saying, hey, I want to fire this guy and that guy and that guy. And it goes all the way up to Dr. Keenum. The people are like, I don't understand why Selman's not doing anything. Guys, we're 5 games into the season. Take a deep breath. I'm not happy with how we're playing either. But it's like to sit back and suggest these people are serving through in action. It's just not accurate. Everybody just calm down. All right, it's time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. You can reach Blair at 601-500-2344. That's 601-500-2344. That goes directly to Blair. Not to a call center or a receptionist or a desk or anything like that. It goes directly to Blair because he wants you to have access to him. Blair is a mortgage professional. If you have mortgage needs, whether it be buying a home, refinancing your current home, or perhaps co-signing on a home for a young person in your life, Blair can help you navigate through the labyrinth that often is underwriting. Hit Blair up and let him know you heard about him on the Boneyard. He's a guy that gets things done, 22 years of experience in the industry, top 1% close ratio in the country, back-to-back years. Blair is your friend. Blair is my friend. He is a friend to all those in need. So hit him up for your needs at closewithblair.com. Okay. One of my favorite modern rock bands is a band actually that was founded in the United Arab Emirates. I don't know that we've had a band with that type of lineage. I love Asking Alexandria. I saw him at Rocklahoma. Thanks, Mark, for that, for the hookup. Love those guys. Love having a chance to watch them perform live. And it really changed for me after seeing them live. I always really liked them. And then when I saw them live, I said, you know what? I need to get deeper into this band. These guys are really passionate about what they do. It's been great. The new material is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Before we get started, I want to share a song with you that didn't make our top 10. And part of the reason why is there were so many great songs to choose from. This one is a little special to me. And I wanted to share it. I made a post about it on Facebook today as we got ready to do the top 10 and record the show. It's a great song called Miles Away. And I don't know how it is for you, but I suspect that we're probably similarly situated in this regard. You know, you get older and you start paying the mortgage and raising kids and paying the bills and trying to build a brand and kind of carve your way in the world. And sometimes old friendships just kind of fall away. They do. It's not anybody's fault, right? I mean, I don't know how it is for you. I don't live in my hometown. I don't get home that often. But there are some friends that whenever I get them on the phone or I see them, it's like it may have been 25 years since we've been together, but it's like none of that time matters anymore. I mean, once you get caught up, it's like all of a sudden, hey, this is a person that knew me before any of this. This is a person that was down for me when I didn't have much. And the song Miles Away is one of those things that I really discovered the song. I'd heard it before, but, there are some songs that kind of become part of the soundtrack of something you're going through. And when my friend Grant Fontenot killed himself, when I found out about that, and you guys know I found about it much later, it made me feel like a really bad friend, that I wasn't there for him, and that I hadn't stayed in contact closer. And I really wish I could have been there for him. I'm not narcissistic enough to believe that maybe I could have changed the outcome, but I certainly would have liked to try. And then I think about my friend Scott Sorensen, and Scott was so instrumental in my early recovery of being a quality friend to me with good habits. Because I had some friends, and listen, I'll be honest and forthright with you, and when you read When the Bottom Falls, you'll understand I was pretty much the negative influence in all of my circle of friends. And when I got sober, I had to kind of reinvent a friend group. And Scott Sorensen, one of my first friends in recovery, and became an award-winning artist in Jackson, and in his obituary they called him a Fondren legend, and I think that's fitting. But, Scotty was a guy, too, that, made me promise. He goes, one day you got to tell our story. And I've done some of that in When the Bottom Falls, and we'll have that to you in a few weeks. I wish I had a release date. I still don't. It's frustrating for me. It really is. I'm ready to get these books on the shelf. And I have articulated that to everybody that'll listen. But the song Miles Away reminds me of the people that I've lost, but also to the people that were instrumental in my success long before that success manifested itself. And it doesn't mean that I don't love those people anymore. It doesn't mean that there's a beef or any disagreement or anything like that. Life just happens to all of us. And so Miles Away is a song that I want to dedicate to everybody that has sowed some positive seeds in my life. And it's a very, very special song. And there's so much of that, too. It's like there's so much in life. It's like we don't always take the time to take an inventory and say, you know what? I wouldn't be here today without the contributions of these people. And many of you are a part of that as well. I mean, you're listening to this show because you love Mississippi State, but you also support us. And, certainly we want you to be a subscriber over at genespage.com. You can still get 2 months for $1. But in addition to that, too, I mean, you listen to the show and buying the books and things like that. I mean, I don't just sit here to hear myself talk. I'm trying to educate and inform as best I can, and I'm very appreciative of all of you. But there are some people out there that have been so incredibly special to me that have really done something that has encouraged me along the way. And so the song Miles Away, it's like I think about that sometimes. Like I'll go to a show or something, like I'll be at some incredible concert, and I think, you know what? As great a time as I'm having, I wish so-and-so was here. I wish they would be able to experience this with me. And there have been times that I've seen Mississippi State win on the road. I think about my dad. Think about all those Bulldogs that we've lost. And, we went to College Station, Texas, and Dave Murray and I get to go out there on the field and shoot a video at Kyle Field. And it's like those things are very special to me. I didn't just wake up one day and I was here. I had to work to get here. And there were a lot of people that were very instrumental in that along the way. And so Miles Away is for all of you that were part of that. But here are our top 10 songs. Number 10, and I give the wife a lot of credit here. She was kind of on the Maria Brink bandwagon long before me. Maria Brink, the lead singer, the fabulous lead singer of In This Moment, also saw them at Rocklahoma. Thanks, Mark. But she is a duet partner on this great song called New Devil. And, of course, it's, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And that's one of those deals you think about, whether it be relationships or, working situations or whatever. It's always best to kind of know who your competition is, right? So New Devil, a great track, and I think Maria Brink really adds something to it. Number 9, a great track, Never Gonna Learn. Love this one, man. Absolutely love. There's so many profound lyrics in this one. I think you're really going to dig it. Number 8, Moving On. It's, of course, the end of a relationship. It could be used for a lot of different things, but this one's about a relationship. It's about that moment, when you have that moment of clarity and say, you know what, this thing is over. And so I'm going to move forward from my own mental health, my own, self-being. I got to move forward. And that's what the track is about, moving on. So maybe that's part of your life. My favorite Asking Alexandria album is, Like a House on Fire. And there are 3 tracks from that album on this list today. The first one is They Don't Want What We Want, and They Don't Care. And I am, in many respects, kind of apolitical in many respects. I don't have a lot of the affiliations that many of you do. That doesn't mean that I don't vote. I vote every opportunity that I'm given because a lot of people fought and gave their lives to give me the right to do so. And so I honor their sacrifice by being part of the electoral process. And I have some strong opinions about politics. I don't always share them on the show. But one of the things that I have learned in the course of my time, in my 51 years on this planet, is it doesn't matter who's in charge. Most of them really don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about themselves. And I think that's one of the reasons that song, The Rich Men North of Richmond, has been so popular. Is because I think there's a lot of angst about all this in our country right now. There are a lot of people that preach division because when the people are divided, the people are not going to become united in one voice. And so this is kind of that same song, and it's not for or against any side politically. It's just about the angst that exists with our leadership that is out of touch with the common person in America. All right, number 6, Psycho. Love this one too. Love the acoustic guitar on it that kind of leads in. It's a little bit different. That's one thing I love about Asking Alexandria. There is a consistent theme through a lot of their music. The sound is very, very unique to them. This is a song that kind of steps out of their usual, style. So I dig it. Love the vocal. Number 5, another song of inspiration is I Won't Give In. And there's a lot of songs like that are inspirational to me, and this is one of them. I'm not that kind of person. It's one of the things that the greatest compliments I've ever been given is I had a friend, one of those friends that I still talk to from my hometown from time to time. Usually when I get a tattoo, we compare notes, But he said, Steve Robertson's the best friend you could ever have or the worst enemy you could ever have. And I kind of wear that like a badge of honor. I'm very loyal to the people that are loyal to me. But I'm also very, very, at times, vindictive about people that aren't. And so more times than not, I'm indifferent about all that stuff anyway. Like I just kind of leave it alone. But if you come after me, you might want to bring an army and a supply chain of sack lunches because it's going to be a difficult undertaking. Number 4, probably one of the first big hits for this band. It's a great track called Alone in the Room. And I always kind of equate that to recovery. I know many of you don't, but you don't have those same struggles that I have. But, being alone in a room sometimes is a good thing and a bad thing. I've been told years ago that an addict alone is in bad company. And that's kind of how I live my life. I don't like to be reclusive. Sometimes I need to be, for my own mental health, to be able to just kind of have a chance to rest and relax. And when the wife is home, and she is now full time, but it's one of those deals where, it helps to have somebody to come home to, but sometimes you just need time to yourself. Number 3, and you probably figured out that 2 of our final 3 songs are going to be off that great album, Like a House on Fire, and it's going to be the track House on Fire. I love the attitude in this one. I love the guitar in it. I love how in your face it is. There's so much of that I think makes rock and roll what it is. We talk so much about how this overproduced sound and things have been watered down, but every so often you encounter a band that you kind of believe what they say. They have some authenticity in what they do. And this is one of those, House on Fire. Number 2, incredible, incredible song. And again, it's about the end of a relationship. And we've all been there. But it's a song called I Don't Need You. And it's about, hey, it's over. And while I still have, some romantic feelings for you, and there's, again, another duet here. It's like I don't need you. I love you. I like you. But I don't need you. I don't have to have you to kind of move forward. And I don't need you to tell me who I'm supposed to be. There's so much of that too. You get caught up in relationships. Sometimes you lose a sense of who you are, and those aren't healthy relationships, right? I mean, if I have to be less of me to have more of you, then that's probably not a good arrangement, But I don't need you. It's one, even though it doesn't apply to my personal life, I can feel the authenticity in the song. There is a genuine article in every bit of this. But number 1, and if there's ever been a song that maybe exemplifies kind of how I feel at times, it's this one. It's Anti-Socialist. I absolutely love this song, and yes, there is some profanity in it. And so if you're a pearl clutcher, this is probably not the track for you. But it's like, it's about all these people that are constantly pulling on you, and they always want something from you, and they don't really contribute anything to your life. They're just essentially a psychic vampire, just kind of getting by on the energy that you provide without reciprocating. And, it's like, go ahead and spread the word. I don't like you. And it's one of those songs that I have to listen to at max volume. It's just one of those ones that just absolutely hits you right where you need it. And maybe you feel differently. Maybe you are a delicate little flower that goes through life, and you're always catering to your inner child or whatever. Maybe that's your thing. That's just not me. And I am the kind of person that will tell you exactly how the cow eats the cabbage, good, bad, or indifferent. And I'll just let the chips fall where they may. Those that like me do, and it's like the old Brentley Gilbert song, those that like me love me. And those that don't, they don't really matter. I don't occupy my mind and my effort trying to win the approval of people that have already decided they're not going to like me. You're never going to please those people, ever. And so this song is rather anthemic. It's like, you know what, hey, you want to have beef, we can have beef. That's perfectly. I can live with the beef, right? I'm not going to go out of my way to beg you to like me. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be loyal to those that are loyal to me. But Anti-Socialist, to me, that is the quintessential Asking Alexandria song. I hope you like the list. And if you're looking to get into a new band, and I know many of you are, because, it gets stale after a while, right? I mean, listen, I love the 80s. I do. I love the grunge era, too. But at times, you get tired of all that stuff. I mean, you just kind of need a break from it. And so I think that I really believe you grow old when you stop listening to new music. I really believe that. I think that's when you become kind of antiquated in your thinking. I think, I've learned a lot by listening to music and studying lyrics and things like that. But more importantly, there's always just a song or two out there that kind of fits the perfect mood for me. And I'm sure many of you are the same way because music is such an incredible time machine. But Asking Alexandria is a very, very, very good band. And so if you're looking for something new, and I don't know that I would jump and start at album number 1. There's some bands you can do that. I'd probably jump in maybe midway through the catalog, or maybe just start with like A House on Fire. That to me, every song on that album sounds like a single. Maybe start there and become familiar with that material, and then kind of work your way through the catalog. But I think this is a band you're really going to like. Again, Asking Alexandria. Be sure and check them out. And thanks as always for your support of the Top 10 list. So many of you have submitted ideas to me and Roy, and we've used so many of them. There's some others that we still have on our list we hadn't made it to yet. But be sure, and if you have ideas, hit Roy up on Twitter at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. You can hit me up, but I can't guarantee I'm going to see it. It's not anything personal. It doesn't always work that way. I get a lot of messages. And so I share that with you. It's important. We want to hear from you, and thank you for your support. And you can find our great list over on Spotify under Roy's handle too at Dogmatic67. Be sure and subscribe and have those lists auto-populated to your phone. 3 times a week, you get some new music, or, that's a cool thing too. Is like, I know many of you enjoy the playlist. You put your own playlist together, but sometimes you go find somebody else's playlist to kind of get some insight to them or find some new music. I'm always looking for new tunes, always. And so please allow me to give my highest level of recommendation to the great band Asking Alexandria. I think you're really going to like those guys. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Been doing business in Starkville for a long, long time. And that's not a shot at anybody's age. It's about longevity. There are a lot of people that kind of pop up and try to sell you Mississippi State merchandise. But wouldn't you want to do business with a Starkvillian institution? That's Campus Bookmart. Neatly positioned on the backside of campus. You turn off 182 right there at the Trooper Station. Keep on coming down right before you get to campus. Right there on the left-hand side is Campus Bookmart. Go by and see the finest selection of Mississippi State merchandise in the known universe. A lot of people make the claim, but it's just rhetoric. Campus Bookmart backs it up. If you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, you can visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That'll give you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75. Bones, absolutely incomplete. Let's take a look around the SEC. Guys, I love chaos in college football when we're not involved, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like it makes it more entertaining. We want things on our side of the fence to go according to expectation or perhaps a little ahead. We don't want to be involved in chaos unless we're the creators of the chaos. Guys, what's happening in Florida is crazy. I thought Florida would be able to out-athlete Kentucky, but I tell you this, Kentucky looked like world beaters in that game against Florida. And so you ask yourself, okay, are we undervaluing Kentucky? Maybe I am. I'm a noted Kentucky hater. But I think maybe Florida, you look at Florida and you realize, man, this thing is going off the rails. Maybe that win against Tennessee was really, rather than be, evidence of what's to come, may have been the outlier. I mean, you look at last week, they beat Charlotte 22-7, then they put up 14 points against Kentucky, and this Kentucky offense has been kind of hit or miss. But listen, man, Kentucky ran the football at will against Florida, and of course, big play in the ball game. Florida's about to get off the field, and they get the leaping penalty, which gives the ball back to Kentucky. They immediately convert that to points.
And it just felt like Florida was chasing the game the entire game. There are people in Gainesville now that want Billy Napier fired. I mean, you're not even halfway through season 2. People are like, you know what? We recognize our mistake. Our friend Scott Strickland, of course, getting a lot of criticism out there as well. You know, the concern that I had with Billy, and I thought Billy would be okay. I didn't think Billy would be great, but I thought Billy would be okay. The issue that I see with Billy, and I know that he spent some time at Alabama. Okay, I get it. He was an assistant under Nick Saban. Didn't last for a while, but left and went to Arizona and worked for Todd Graham. But here's the deal. When you're recruiting at Mississippi State, or you're recruiting at Ole Miss or Arkansas and places like that, no matter what we tell ourselves, we're recruiting at a different level. No matter what anybody says about NIL or portal and all that kind of stuff or black money or whatever, forget that. When you go to the University of Florida, you are competing head-to-head with LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and all the heavyweights. And if you're a head coach that doesn't know how to navigate through the difficulties that come, would basically kind of tiptoe into the jungle, you're going to get crushed. Now, Napier and Florida are having a really good recruiting year this year. They've had a couple things not go their way. And so you think maybe they're figuring some things out, but is it going to be too little too late? Because you know as well as I do, the Florida Gators are not going to sit back and have back-to-back losing seasons. I mean, that's just not who they are. They are not willing to accept that. You go to Kentucky or Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, places like that. You go 7, 5, 8, and 4 most years. You're going to keep a job, get a nice extension. That's just not the case in Florida. That job is too big for many of the coaches in the college football ranks. And at this point, it appears that it's too big for Billy Napier. And so the question now becomes is, how do you get through this? The buyout is ridiculous, and I think it only goes down like $3 or $4 million because they have to pay him a ridiculous amount of money. Is it worth letting him hang around to save $3 million? When you got Florida's resources, maybe it's not. But here's the deal now. The Gators are 3-2 and 1-1 in the SEC, but it feels a lot worse, right? I mean, nobody expected them a challenge for the SEC East. But you look at how they've played, and the only game that really looks like they've played exceptionally well and matched up athlete to athlete was that home game against Tennessee. And maybe Tennessee is not as good as we expected. And maybe Kentucky's better than we expected. I think both of those things can be true, but I think Florida might be exactly what we thought they would be. Now, they get Vanderbilt this week. That'll be big. Then they go to South Carolina, and the way South Carolina's played at times, you never know how it's going to go. Then you get Georgia, Arkansas, at LSU, at Missouri, and then Florida State. After this weekend, there's a good chance that Florida may not be favored in many games the rest of the way. That's a tough thing, man. The Swamp used to be one of the toughest places to play in the country. You start looking at here and start counting wins here. They should win this week, which would give them 4. And you start, who can you confidently say they'll beat down the stretch? Well, they ought to be able to get Arkansas and Missouri. They should. But would you count the road game at South Carolina, LSU? Would you count the Florida State game? Florida State's turning towards a playoff. Florida's going to have a tough time making a bowl game. They are. And I think one of the things that may really hurt them is I think people are going to begin to kind of check out. Texas A&M, a big win over Arkansas. I picked Arkansas in this game. I own it. Even though Texas A&M has dominated a series, I didn't think Max Johnson would be able to do enough to win this game. This game was really never in question. It really wasn't. And, there's starting to be some murmurings out there, in Northwest Arkansas. Everybody's beginning to wonder, hey, is Sam Pittman the guy? Well, most of us told you in the beginning that he wasn't. But he's so charming, right? And he's so folksy. It's easy to like Sam Pittman. I like Sam Pittman. I do. But I think it's abundantly clear that maybe he's not head coaching material, at least not in this league. This is a ball game too. You just look up here and you think, okay, all right, things are going to be good. And it's a 17-6 ball game at the end of the first quarter. And from there, Arkansas never really challenged. I guess they cut it at one point to 20-16. Felt like they were back in it. But then from there, it's all Aggies. It really is. KJ Jefferson just 9 of 17. Woof. Tough day. Max Johnson, 17-28, 210 yards, a couple touchdowns and a pick. But, yeah, great win for A&M. You know, we thought A&M would be probably the third best team in the West to start the year. That's a big win for them. And, again, 2-3, 0-2 in the SEC for Arkansas. Really sets up for a kind of a must-win game for Mississippi State and Arkansas next week when the Bulldogs head to Fayetteville. Georgia really had to play hard to win this ball game against Auburn. Give the Tigers credit. Auburn actually covers the spread here. Georgia 27-20. And again, we kind of revisit a topic we discussed recently on the show. Georgia just not playing at the level we expect them to play. I think we're all probably in agreement there that while Georgia remains the number one team in the country, they have not looked nearly as dominant as people expected. We thought there'd be a little bit of a step back without Stetson Bennett at quarterback, and there has been. But give Auburn all the credit in the world, too. Auburn went out there and played exceptionally well. And, I think Hugh Freeze called plays in the ball game. And but that Auburn offense is still rather pedestrian. They do some things schematically, but they don't have a lot of people that fit exactly what they want to do. Thorne's a guy that is, kind of pedestrian in what he does. And, Robbie Ashford's a guy that's an incredible athlete, but he really struggles throwing the football and reading defenses. But, Georgia basically wins the fourth quarter 10-3. That's the difference in the ballgame. Auburn jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and then Georgia ties it at the half. And then, it's pretty much, lockstep the whole way through three quarters. But in the end, the better team finds a way to win. Thorne 10 of 19 in the ballgame, just 82 yards and a pick. They're very much one-dimensional on offense. And again, I think a lot of it's you hit the transfer portal hard and try to upgrade the talent in your room, but didn't work out as well. Missouri hammers Vanderbilt 38-21. We expected Missouri to win this game. You, me, most people. Again, I think Missouri is probably done. But Vanderbilt. But you look at Missouri. It's so easy to start forecasting here, but the Tigers are 5-0. Now, outside of Kansas State, they haven't really played anybody. They will this weekend. They'll get an LSU team looking to rebound. Missouri now 21 in the rankings. LSU down to 23. If I'm Missouri, and you think about this desperate LSU team that's already got a couple losses, you start thinking to yourself, hey, guys, we got a shot here. We got a shot to make some big things happen. The next week you're at Kentucky, and then you host South Carolina. Missouri could prove to be the surprise test team in the West. In the East. They're 5-0 now, which is not to be unexpected. But what's happened, I think, is they're elevating their play a little bit, and they're won the games they're supposed to win. But the competition is maybe kind of playing down to them, and Brady Cook having a great year for them. 105, 141 attempts, 1,468 yards, 11 touchdowns. That'll work. But give them credit. 5-0. Wouldn't we love to be 5-0, regardless of who we play? And, of course, next week's competition, the LSU Tigers, get beat by Ole Miss 55-49. A barn burner of a game. If you like college football, and many of you were cheering for the Tigers because you don't want anything good to happen in Oxford. But give Ole Miss a lot of credit. And I think if you watched that game at all, you saw that Ole Miss ran some of the same concepts that Arkansas ran offensively. So give the Razorbacks a little credit for kind of exposing that Tiger defense, and then Lane Kiffin and his staff for exploiting that. And that's what you do. You watch film and you begin to kind of evaluate where you are or how other people found some success. Ole Miss, 55 points against LSU. And you can say what you want to. Listen, we all feel that way, right? Nobody wants to see good things that happen at Ole Miss, but let's be honest. After beating LSU, and this was a really good LSU team, a lot of talent, but defensively they're a mess. They're an absolute mess. And Ole Miss in a prime position now, while they don't control their own destiny. After playing Alabama, do you really think that Alabama's going to run the table? I don't know that anybody expects that. And so, yeah, Alabama holds a tiebreaker over Ole Miss. But how could you look at that game last week against LSU? Again, a very talented LSU team, and not be impressed with what Ole Miss did. 55 points for Ole Miss is the most in the history of the series at LSU. That's impressive, right? And so you can say or think what you want, but big win for the Ole Miss Rebels for sure. And not a great development for LSU. And I really thought LSU was going to run away with this thing in the West because I thought, hey, they'll go to Tuscaloosa and they'll beat them, and everybody else will beat themselves up. And you got to think now, probably the biggest threat to Alabama is Ole Miss. Just kind of call it for what it is. South Carolina goes to Tennessee, and I think South Carolina is who we thought they were. And I think we're going to look back at the end of this year and feel like we let a ball game get away. I think we already feel that way. But I think over the course of this season, we're going to look back and say, man, that's really a game we should have won. Tennessee jumps out to a 24-10 lead and just kind of coasts the rest of the way to a 41-20 victory. Joe Milton, 21 of 32 for 239 yards, threw a couple of picks, or this game may have been worse. But, it is what it is, right? And Xavier Leggett had the big game against State, held to 5 catches for just 50 yards, no touchdowns. A long of 32, so you begin to factor in 4 other catches, amassed a total of 18 yards. So good job by the Tennessee secondary that is clearly better than the one from Mississippi State. They gave up some huge plays in that ball game. And, of course, Alabama, Mississippi State, you know how that one went. Let's take a quick look ahead at this next week, and, we'll touch on things throughout the week. But big week. Big week in the league. LSU, of course, at Missouri. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, you look at it on paper and you say, you know what, LSU should be able to out-athlete Missouri, but you look at Missouri's experience and their playing home and the fact that they've got some pretty good skill position players, could be a big-time ball game. They're going to kick off the same time as Mississippi State and Western Michigan. And, of course, we'll preview Western Michigan later in the week. Alabama's at A&M. That's your 2:30 CBS game. A&M, an unranked team, but they have some real players. When you look at that Alabama offense, you realize how pedestrian they are. And this Alabama defense, I think, has the potential to be elite. Got to settle some things down. But you begin to look at this game here, and you begin to realize Alabama could be in some trouble. They absolutely could be. If Alabama goes to A&M and loses that ball game, it changes the complexion of the race in the West. And I think it's going to be a wild, wild West this year. I really do. And, again, I think this A&M team is certainly capable of beating Alabama. I think they can match them athlete for athlete. The Aggies currently 4-1 overall and 2-0 in the SEC, and you kind of peeking ahead here. They get Alabama this week, then they got to go to Knoxville. And then from there, things get a little bit easier. But what a huge game setting up November 4th at Oxford against Ole Miss. Be huge. And so they got a lot to play for sure. But A&M kind of quietly just kind of going through the motions. It kind of has a little bit of an LSU feel to it, right? They hadn't had that big breakthrough win. They're just kind of quietly going through handling their business. The long loss was to Miami. And give Petrino and the group a lot of credit there because you lose your starting quarterback and then you don't miss a beat offensively. Of course, it benefits having a former SEC starter as your backup, a guy like Max Johnson. Vanderbilt will be at Florida. We mentioned that. It's tough to go into the swamp, but I don't think Vanderbilt will win another game the rest of the year. But that's a big game for Billy Napier and them. If Billy Napier and those guys lose that ball game, you can't even begin to imagine what the situation in Gainesville would be like post-game. You can't even begin to wrap your mind around it. And remember last year, Vanderbilt beat Florida. Our boy Mike Wright, our guy, Mike. And so, Florida's been looking forward to getting this one back. So you got to like the Gators here, but don't be surprised if Vandy doesn't give them a game for a while. Kentucky is at Georgia. That's a big game there. A lot of people are trying to suggest that Kentucky is the second best team in the East. And maybe they are. Maybe they are because they figured out some things offensively this past week. And you got to wonder, is that really more about Kentucky or is it about Florida? I guess we'll find out this weekend. But, Georgia, again, not playing exceptionally well. Don't be surprised if this is a ball game. And then, of course, Arkansas at Ole Miss. That'll be your night games. And so it's really like if you're a Mississippi State fan, it's kind of the best of both worlds here, right? We have a chance to to get a non-conference win early in the day, get home, and have a chance to watch a couple of pretty good ball games. Kentucky and Georgia should be a great one. That's on ESPN. Then Arkansas at Ole Miss on the SEC Network. The thing that I always think about when Arkansas and Ole Miss get together, weird things always happen. But Ole Miss has never been great against the run. It's like Arkansas commits so much to the run, and you have to bring so many people up to defend them that it really opens up some things in the passing game. And so if KJ can have a good day throwing the football, could be an interesting outcome. But big game for Ole Miss, obviously, because it's the next game. And again, offensively, we did some really good things against LSU that they weren't able to do against Alabama. So what does Dan Enos dial up against this Ole Miss defense? Because this Ole Miss defense has not been great either, but should be an entertaining game. So again, we'll take care of business in the morning, get home, and have a chance to watch a couple really good night games. So again, come on up to Starkville, maybe come kick it around at the condo, and enjoy a weekend here. Don't forget, folks, the last home game for you this weekend until we get to the month of November. Maybe you've forgotten that. Let that sink in for a second. If you love Starkville and you love being up here and around everything, make the effort this weekend. Again, next week's an open day. Then we go to Fayetteville and then to Auburn. So you will not see your Bulldogs back in action after this weekend in Davis-Wade Stadium until the month of November. It's like we wait all year for this to get here, and you look up and we're halfway done. So come be a part of that. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by our friends at International Auction LLC. Guys, we're in October now, so 10 days from now, you're going to have this auction, a chance to bid on 156 plus acres of development property. It's divided into 5 tracts. Now, you can buy the whole shoot match if you want. You can. Or you can bid on an individual tract. And one of the best things about this place, man, is like the infrastructure for construction is already there. You got sewer, water, electricity already in place. If you're considering maybe a multi-family or residential type development there, maybe you've always thought, you know what, hey, let's put some apartments out here. There's already some out there, but you can add some that are even better. You can improve the options out there for people. And it's located in the Opportunity Zone. There's no zoning out there. There's 5 lakes on this property. So if you've always wanted to make Starkville your home and maybe be a recluse, just kind of like, hey, I'd love to be close to campus, and you can be a neighbor of Mississippi State because this property butts up against the North Farm. 5 minutes from Dirty Noble Field. 5 minutes from the Hump. 5 minutes from Davis-Wade Stadium. You could tailgate at home. How amazing would that be? Everybody can just get together, have a cookout at your house, and those that want to go to the game can go, and the ones that want to stay can stay, and everybody spend the night together. It'd be a great, great, great deal. So we already had 2 showings. There will be another showing this Sunday from 10 to 2. All right, that's going to be at 2 Sterling Drive. Put that in your GPS, 2 Sterling, Stirling Drive here in Starkville. And just up there at the clubhouse, you're going to have an opportunity to kind of get some more information. There's going to be telephone, online bidding, and, of course, you can bid on site. You will need to pay a deposit. If you plan to bid on the entire property, the whole 56-acre shebang, that's a $25,000 deposit. If you want to do individual tracts, it's $10,000 per tract, right? So if you don't win, you get your check back. But we want to get a deposit to make sure that you're serious about this property. So, again, this Sunday, one of the final opportunities, unless you make an appointment. So this Sunday and then next Wednesday. Next Wednesday will be a final showing. And then Thursday, that's right, Thursday the 12th, you're going to get a chance to bid on your new property for your new home. A wonderful place. I've viewed the property, and I can tell you, it's absolutely exquisite. It's everything you love about Starkville, of course, with the proximity to campus, which makes it even better. Again, it's International Auction LLC.com, or give them a call today at 888-861-0999. All right, let's talk a little baseball before we get out of here. We're beginning to wrap up fall baseball. And so I was told today, if kind of let you know, going to give you a heads up, they're going to begin the kind of Fall Ball World Series, and we'll have a couple of exhibitions, and fall's going to be over. We're going to be done. Steven Spalletta hit another tank. I don't know how you keep that kid out of the lineup. Is he challenging for third? I don't know. Logan Kohler has really responded here as of late, hit the baseball well. He had one long fly out yesterday that nearly poked out of the yard, and he has hit a couple of bombs, but the biggest thing that I see, because a lot of people are texting me, hey, Steve, I love baseball, and I appreciate you and Mike being there. What are you really thinking? Well, it's tough to know because you're playing yourself, right? Pitching is up and down at times, and some of that, too, is you use fall baseball to figure out who you can trust. And so everybody's going to get some innings. Everybody. Now, Nate Dome, I've seen him pitch 3 times this fall. I think he's gotten better every outing. I do think he is has a real opportunity to be the Friday night starter. And some people say, but Steve, Why would he be a Friday night guy? Well, he was pitching in a role last year that he wasn't recruited to pitch, right? We had to move him to the weekend because of a team need. Not to mention he was a sophomore. So this is usually the year, like the big junior year, where you move the guy to Friday night. And the guy, maybe it was a Saturday or a Sunday guy. Does Nate have Friday night stuff? I think he does. Is he on the same level as Will Bednar? No, he's not. He doesn't have that kind of stuff. He's not Landon Sims. But he may be the best option that we have. And for those of you that haven't seen him in the fall, I don't think you can fully appreciate the fact that he has really fine-tuned some things, and he really looks good out there. The motion, his throwing motion, looks a lot more natural. It's not so violent. He's not overthrowing, So I feel good about that. I thought Carson Ligon looked pretty good yesterday. It was interesting, too. If memory serves me correct, the black pitching staff, the black team pitching staff had a no-hitter through 5 innings. And then, of course, some things got away late, and that, which tends to happen in a scrimmage. That's part of the deal, too. David Mershon hit a big 2-run bomb yesterday. And I'll tell you, that kid's a ball player, man. You saw him last year. He's even better this year. He looks more comfortable out there. And the thing that probably gives me the most level of comfort, because I expected us to be a good offensive team. We were a good offensive team last year. I think we can be even better, even though you don't have Colton Ledbetter. And Ledbetter, of course, at times in SEC play, kind of disappeared on us. I love the kid. I do. But I think there's going to be a little more depth in this order. I think we're going to score some runs. And it won't all just be from home runs. I think Connor Hyzak has done some good things. But the thing that has probably given me maybe the most confidence is the fact how well we're playing defensively. We're really playing well defensively. I mean, how many times did you see a batted ball go to the left side last year and you held your breath? Between Mershon and Kupp, after the first weekend, they've been absolutely automatic at short. And they're making some plays that we haven't ordinarily made. Listen, Lane had some big moments for us, especially in 2021. He did. He was great defensively. And then I don't know what happened over the course of the last 18 months, but he kind of got the yips. But things are a little more smooth out there these days. Ground ball to third. Really, really, really confident in what Logan Kohler has done. Spalletta yesterday has played some at third the last couple of weekends because, again, you're trying to find a way to get the kid in the lineup, right? I mean, he's not going to beat out Ross Highfield, right? But you can't ignore the fact this kid's got 4 bombs in the fall. And if memory serves me correct, he's leading the team. And so you begin to think about the fact, again, this is just the last guy in the class. And he showed up and really, made a loud arrival. But I feel good about the lineup. I was a little bit curious about Hyzak going to center. He robbed a home run on Friday and then doubled off the runner at first. Bryce Chance, of course, played some at second. Bryce is a guy. People forget this, and Mike Nemeth and I talked about this yesterday. Bryce Chance was hitting like 352 when he got injured. At the time, he was one of the leading hitters in the Southeastern Conference. And so you start beginning to wonder, how do we piece this thing together to get him in the lineup? So we have some options offensively and defensively. But you and I both know it's all going to boil down to how we pitch. And, of course, all this will kind of round into form over the course of the next 3 months. And we'll get ready to put a rotation together. But I think Cal Stevens has done some good things. But, but the guy that I look at, I would think, okay, if I've got to go win one game, like if they give me that wild card 1-game playoff deal, I'm starting Nate. Based on what I've seen this fall, I'm starting Nate. There's some other guys, too, that have done some good things for us. There's some younger arms that are coming on. Mekhi Grant yesterday walked off the mound with the trainer, so we're a little bit concerned about that, but he did return to the dugout. But that happens in the fall. I mean, every time, anytime you see a pitcher talk to a trainer, it always gives you pause, right? And so we're hopeful that he's okay. He's been really good this fall, and again, he's kind of learning how to pitch to college hitters, so he throws with a lot of velo. But again, Carson Ligon, saw him pitch some yesterday, and he's a guy too that an SEC caliber type guy. He was a Friday night starter in the ACC, which is probably the second best baseball conference in the country. And so you got to feel like he can help you somewhere on the weekend. And so that's what Justin Parker's challenge is now, is just kind of figuring out what are the roles for these guys. Who's your closer? Is it Stone Simmons or is it somebody else? Brooks Auger has been a little bit up and down. I didn't think yesterday was one of his better days. He's had some other days where he's been absolutely electric. But the main thing is we have options. We have a lot of options. Brock Tapper pitched yesterday and looked a little bit rusty to me against live hitting. But, you know that he's a competitor. You know he's going to challenge hitters, and he did that all year last year. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we're going to be much better defensively, which in turn will make us better on the mound. And I think we're going to be as good, or if not a little bit better than we were offensively last year. Because I think Dakota Jordan's going to make a big jump numbers-wise. You saw what he was the back half of the year, But you've got some options. And we got some guys, putting some pretty good swings on the ball these days. But again, like the last 3 years, it's going to boil down to pitching. We had great pitching in 2021. We won an national championship. We set an NCAA record for strikeouts. And then we tried to replicate that same formula with guys that weren't quite as talented. And of course, we had the big injury. I go back to Landon Sims getting injured down there in Tulane. It's like Landon had been really good for us the first couple of, during the non-conference, and then didn't get a lot of run support. And then he's having one of the best performances in the country and tears the UCL. And that really kind of sent us on a downward spiral. And just when we're starting to feel bad about ourselves, then we lose Stone Simmons on top of that. And so a lot of that can kind of be explained away. You say, well, you lost these frontline guys. You tried to replace them, and then the guys you were depending on got injured. And then, of course, the same problems kind of arose last year without the same level of injuries. And so we make a change. So I understand people being a little bit gun-shy. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're going to Omaha, that we're going to host a regional, anything like that. I'm just going to tell you based on what I have seen this fall, and there's only so much you can tell. We are a much better team defensively this fall than we were last year. We were. And you can always get tricked. Remember last year, Graham Eichema was absolutely unhittable in the fall. And then he gets into a real game, and outside of one or two appearances, it was just absolute fiasco. It just was. Not talking poorly of the kid. I'm just kind of assessing his play. You all saw it. It's not like I'm breaking any news here. But I feel good about the direction of things, and I'm eager to see what happens in these exhibition games against Louisiana Tech and UAB. Because we're certainly going to try to win those games. That's a big part of it. We're going to try to go win those games. It's not like we're going to go out there and just, make sure everybody has some work. I'm sure we will spread the pitching duties around a little bit, but we want to go win the games. We want to go play somebody else and kind of see how things look. But if you're able to go to those games, I encourage you to do so. Of course, next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, during the open date, Bulldogs will be playing out in Ruston against Louisiana Tech. And then you get UAB, the next one, to kind of close it out. And so I'll look forward to sitting down with Chris Simonis here in the next week or so. We'll just kind of assess where we are. And I'm eager to hear from Chris. We've talked in passing a little bit at scrimmages, but just to kind of sit down and see how he's feeling. It's a big year. It's not just for Chris, but for Mississippi State. And, my loyalty is always to the M over S in every aspect. And I appreciate every coach that's been the skipper and filled that lineup card for us. But we got to win this year. Everybody knows that, But I think we have the pieces in which to do so. But, again, it's fall baseball. And we've been fooled before about fall baseball. But I do recall, too, in 2021, we had trouble throwing strikes in the fall. We did. And then we ended up setting the national record for strikeouts. And so good, bad, or indifferent, you can't base a lot on fall baseball. I think it's important to temper that. But you guys still want to know what's going on and who looks good. And, again, the big takeaway right now is defensively this is a better baseball team because we were booting the ball around consistently last year in the fall, and that carried over into the season. So you don't want the game to speed these kids up, but feel good about how we look defensively. And I think that's one thing, no matter the level of competition, doesn't matter who you're pitching against or hitting against. When you go out there and you play good defense, more times than not you're going to be in the ball game. All right, let's get ready to get out of here. Go to whenthebottomfalls.com and you can order my newest book, When the Bottom Falls, but also all my sports books are available through the same website. If you're looking for Stark Villains gear, I was reminded, I forgot to mention that last week. And so now that you've reminded me, I expect you to go order some Stark Villains gear. Go to starkvillains.com, get yourself T-shirts, hoodies, everything with a Stark Villain logo on it. It's incredible to be able to offer that to you. And if you've got some Boneyard fans in your family, let me encourage you, maybe consider that as a Christmas gift. And they're not going to be expecting that. They probably won't even ask you for it, but they'd love to have it. And maybe go ahead and order that and have that ready for Christmas. Again, that's starkvillains.com. And if you hadn't done so, come to jeanspage.com and join our merry band of misfits. 2 months for $1. That's your good starting introductory offer. 2 months for $1 at jeanspage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. Hey, you guys have a great week. We'll be back on Wednesday. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.